and welcome into another week of The Recharge. I'm Ruben Gonzalez, and that is Matthew Stanley. And I promise you guys no F-bombs this week, but what I will promise you is that the Chargers came off another victory, this time over the Oakland Raiders, 26-10 victors, and it felt good to have back-to-back Sundays with victories, Matthew. And then, of course, we're trying to make it 3 in a row. This week they got the Browns, but looking back against the Raiders, it was quite a complete game for the Chargers.
It was. It was kind of a strange feeling watching the game because they just executed so well that I didn't really ever have that normal impending sense of doom that happens during a Charger game where you're like, well, we've got the lead, but when are they going to Charger this and lose? Find some creative way to lose. But yeah, it was a pretty dominant performance, and I want to give a lot of credit to the coaching staff. We've harped on the coaching staff a lot about not coaching very well, and this was far and away the best coached game that they've had all season. As far as I remember, they made great decisions. The team looked prepared for what the Raiders were going to be doing. They didn't look like they were playing catch up. And my favorite part is they didn't take their foot off the gas in the fourth quarter with the lead. They were still passing the ball. They weren't playing prevent defense. They were going for the throat. And I think that's what they need to continue to do going forward.
Yeah, it was kind of a slow game. It was really low scoring in the first half. Caleb Sturgis tried to do his best to Charger it out, but luckily it didn't come down to anything that was related to him. Chargers did hold off for that win, and so we were happy, and it was also happy to see that Super Melvin was back for at least one game. He was very widely used, different positions, and made his presence felt for, I think, the first time for real this season.
Yeah, he really made an impact on this game. I don't know if he was just like hyped up to be playing the Raiders or he was excited to have Corey Liuget back in the lineup, but he really played with his hair on fire, and it was fun to see. They definitely got creative with how they used him. They moved him around a lot, and they were going against 2 rookie tackles for the Oakland Raiders and a replacement guard, but they took full advantage of it, and they were able to get good pressure from almost everybody. And yeah, Melvin had a really good game. It was nice to see, and especially that interception. He really read that really well and put himself in a good position and to make that interception. And if you ask me, he made it in the end zone on that carry.
I was going to say, yeah, he was into. That would have been quite the game for him if they gave him that touchdown. So
right,
yeah, it was good. Good to see Super Melvin doing his thing, and probably should expect a new song coming out because of that game. I got a touchdown, maybe something like that. Let's kind of fast forward a little bit as we transition to that impending game on Sunday. Word came out today that the Chargers signed a new kicker, but wasn't exactly all happiness going around because the Chargers kind of chargered this up as well.
Yeah, it was an interesting decision. So they've decided to basically sign a kicker as insurance. Caleb Sturgis has come out now and said that part of the reason why he missed that extra point is he has a injured hamstring or injured quad. And he's been limited in practice both days, and the team is concerned that he won't be able to kick this weekend. At this point, I'm not sure what they're afraid of as far as letting him go. I feel like based on his performance so far this season and the fact that he was injured in training camp and then injured again now, I don't think any team is going to be clamoring to sign him if you release him for 1 week. So I don't know why they decided to try and keep 2. The kicker that they signed, every Colts fan that I've seen on Twitter said he looked impressive. And apparently the rumor was they were really close to trying to keep him on the practice squad in Indianapolis because Vinatieri is so old, and they liked what this kid did. In the preseason, for those of you who don't know, he attempted 5 field goals with a long of 51 and hit all of them. and he converted all 5 of his extra point attempts in the preseason. So he's been pretty accurate. And he wasn't the only kicker they brought in today. They apparently worked out a couple kickers, including Robert Aguayo and this guy. His name's Michael Badgley. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Badgley. That's the kicker they signed. He beat out the other 2 kickers that tried out, including Robert Aguayo. So the team obviously has a little confidence in him. And Anthony Lynn said today that they're only going to have 1 kicker active for Sunday. So if they talk to Caleb Sturgis before the game and he shows any sign of hesitation, he's not going to be active, and this rookie is. So based on Anthony Lynn's talk today, I think even if Sturgis can't go this weekend and this kid hits 2 50-yard field goals and nails all his extra points, they have some weird fascination with Sturgis. He kept bringing up the fact that when he's healthy, he makes the most clutch kick. He has the best clutch kick rate in the league, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I don't think Sturgis is on as short of a leash as most of us would hope. But, yeah, they've decided to go with 2 kickers for now.
Yeah, looking back as I build these rundowns every week before we do the show, I keep seeing Sturgis' name on our rundowns or something to do about the kicker, and I'm just kind of like, hey, it's an issue. It's a growing issue. It's something that if we gloss over, I guess we can just forget about it. But it's in the news. They keep signing guys. They keep releasing players. So we must talk about it on the rundown. So
at this point, it's almost starting to feel like the conspiracy theories are starting to come out. I even saw one super out of left field conspiracy theory that they're basically allowing the kicker situation to continue to be a situation week to week so that they don't have to answer questions about Joey Bosa.
Wow. Well, there was an interesting report that you shared with me, I think yesterday, about that bone bruise. And so that was interesting. So let's hope everything is good with Bosa. And, hey, we want to talk about Bosa. So thanks for getting him into the rundown today. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns, a surprising Cleveland Browns team that we kind of knew they had a chance that they may be a different kind of team this year, but all indications they're passing with flying colors. They easily could be 4-0, like easily could be 3-1, and this is going to be a fight that the Chargers, they know that it's going to be harder than what years previously would indicate, even though they did lose to them when they were winless. But besides the fact, hey, this is a strong Cleveland Brown team. What do you? Was it just a matter of time eventually catching up to all those draft picks that they accumulated?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Is they have a lot of young, talented players, especially on defense. Their defense is going to be good for the next probably 5 to 8 years, especially if they can get some of those players to re-sign. But they're young, they're fast, they're pretty well coached on defense. Greg Williams he's an interesting character, but he's a good defensive coordinator. With Baker Mayfield back there now, they've got some of that juice on offense, and Bradley Chubb has looked really good. Their offensive line is blocking pretty well. I don't think Hugh Jackson is a good head coach. I think that's probably one thing that's holding them back is their head coach is not very good. And obviously, being young, they're prone to some mistakes. We've seen Baker make some of those mistakes. He's had his handful of turnovers already. But they're a resilient team. They've played 5 games so far, and if I remember right, 3 of them have gone to overtime. So they're grinding games out. They're doing what they can to stay in games. They're not getting blown out like they were. They've been close in almost every single game, and they're a team that's coming to play on Sundays now.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with them. Of course, we got to see an inside look. If you watch the Hard Knock series, you kind of seen them. You've seen all the weapons they have. So that kind of gives us a little bit good scouting report as fans going into this game, because we don't watch the Browns that often. But
right.
Just watching that show, you kind of okay. See, we know what they have. And we do know that they have a franchise quarterback in Baker Mayfield. As Charger fans, I think all of us on Bolts from the Blue, we were clamoring for the Chargers to find a way to draft Baker Mayfield to be Phillips' successor. And unfortunately, we still got a great player, but he's the real deal from all indications, right?
Yeah, he looks really good. His stat line is a little misleading. He's only completed 59% of his passes so far, I think, or 58. But the Browns actually lead the league in dropped passes so far this season. So his wide receivers haven't been helping him out that much. But yeah, I mean, he is a rookie, but he looks solid. He's overall making good decisions. You can see he's, like we keep mentioning about Patrick Mahomes, how he looks calm out there on the field. Baker Mayfield, for the most part, looks calm out there. He doesn't look like he's panicking. He's not running around, being gun shy. So, he has been pretty much as advertised so far. He's obviously got some room to grow because he's a rookie, but yeah, he's been, pretty impressive so far, especially, with kind of the lack of preparation he had this offseason, because Hugh Jackson, and part of why I say Hugh Jackson isn't the greatest head coach, Hugh Jackson kind of set him up for failure this offseason. If you watched Hard Knocks and have been following the Browns at all, through the whole offseason, he didn't give Baker Mayfield any snaps with the ones on offense because he just kept saying, this is Tyrod's team. This is Tyrod's team. Baker will have his time, but it's Tyrod's team. So they didn't even rotate in. Baker Mayfield didn't get any snaps with the ones until Tyrod got hurt. So he's still trying to develop that rapport with everybody and that timing with the first offensive unit because he's only been playing with them for 3 weeks. So, he's done well in spite of all of that.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with him. Man, he would have been good as a Charger in a few years too. So, okay, we'll get over there. We've got Derwin James in replacement. Well, the Chargers have an awesome defensive player who's not going to be playing, Joey Bosa. But the Browns, they have their own player as well, and he goes by name of Myles Garrett. That dog pound defense you talked about, it's much improved. There's a lot of young players, but it starts with Myles Garrett. And if Russell Okung cannot play this week, what kind of trouble is he going to be for Philip Rivers this weekend?
He's going to be a lot of trouble. Even if Russell Okung can play, he's obviously not going to be 100%. And Myles Garrett, he can just impact the game in a way that very few can. Like, he's a Joey Bosa level player. He just imposes his will on offensive linemen. He's so strong, but he has a whole repertoire of pass rushing moves. He's just a really, really good player, and he's got great awareness. He does well against the run as well. He's one of those complete players, one of those, generational type defensive ends that can just wreck a game for offenses. And so he's going to be a big problem. The Chargers are definitely, I guarantee you, a big part of their offensive game planning this week is how do we get the ball out of Phillips' hands as fast as possible, and how do we deal with Myles Garrett? So they're going to be looking at every tape from this season. They're going to be looking at all 5 games for the Browns and figuring out what plays had success going towards Myles Garrett. They're going to be putting those in the playbook this week and calling those plays. And, how did teams try to neutralize him and what worked and what didn't. So luckily they have a couple games worth of tape to look at to get some pointers on that. But yeah, he's one of those defensive players that the offensive coordinator probably spent a whole night just focusing on how do we eliminate this player.
Yeah, and a lot of praying is going to be involved as well. So, as we wrap up this rundown, the one matchup you're interested in watching this week?
I feel like it'd be cheating to just go ahead and say Myles Garrett versus whoever's playing left tackle there. So I will say Derwin James versus their tight end David Njoku. He is crazy athletic and big, and he's the type of tight end that the Chargers usually have some trouble with. So it'll be really interesting to see how Derwin's size and athleticism work, covering him, because he's one of those freak athletes that can break open a game if you don't have somebody fast enough to cover him. Like if Kyle Emanuel winds up on Njoku, it's probably a touchdown.
Yeah, I feel you on that, and hopefully we see some more Adrian Phillips too. The matchup I'm interested in watching is Denzel Ward and whoever he's covering. A lot of hype about Denzel Ward. He's the rookie cornerback for the Browns, and just want to see how he does. I guess the hype is warranted though, so it's going to be good. We'll see him probably hopefully against Keenan a few times, and Mike Will. We'll see what happens with that. I also happen to think that this game has some wild card implications down the road. For one being because the Browns, they have a tie on their record, so they kind of have a half game lead. Let's say if they were to end up with the same amount of losses, they have a half game already ahead of them. So I think a win this week would be important for the Chargers.
Yeah, it's definitely a must-win game. I think, we kept talking about this stretch of games between the Rams game and the bye week, and how that they were semi-easy. They're, pretty easy games. They were games that they need to win. And I think that between this game and the Titans game next week are the two, the only two that kind of made me a little nervous. This is obviously the Browns went, what was it, like 20 something games, or no, 18 games without a win. And and the last game that they won was against the Chargers. So obviously it's a game that the Chargers need to win, both to prove to themselves that they can, put away opponents that they're supposed to put away, and just keep these wins rolling. Because if they can get into the bye week at 5-2, they're going to be in great position. Because I also think that the Chiefs probably get their first loss this week, because AFC teams traveling to Foxborough just never do well in the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick era. So, I think the Chiefs are pretty primed for their first loss this week at New England. And so if the Chargers can keep this streak rolling and be at 4-2 with the Chiefs at 5-1 in striking distance, that sets the Chargers up in great position going forward.
Yeah, so we'll just go ahead and say this is a must-win, even though it's still early in the season. So we get to the final part of the rundown. What is your score prediction this week, Matthew?
So I think for the first time this season, I'm going to predict a lower score. I think the Chargers probably wind up winning this. I'm going to say 23-13.
Okay. I got 27-17. So 10-point, 13-point game between us. So it's going to be an intriguing game. Hopefully, like you said, the Chargers get this victory and move to 4-2. So that'd be awesome. Matthew, you're leaving out of the country, right? You're going to be out of the country, but you're going to be at the next Charger game, right? So should be interesting.
Yeah, I'm leaving. You guys will be watching this on Friday. I'll be leaving tomorrow, Saturday. I'll land in London at 8 a.m. on Sunday, the 14th, and I'll be there the whole week leading up to the game, and then I'll obviously be at the game. So, yeah, go ahead and, if you're not already, follow me on Twitter at BoltFan in Denver. I'll be tweeting from England this week. I'm going to try, and I didn't make a ton of plans so that I can try to find some team events and go to some team events. So I'll probably be posting some pictures and just, tweets from random things. So, yeah, should be a lot of fun.
And you were saying that all the UK Charger fans out there, contact him because he wants to know where all the best places to catch a beer are at while he's there. And he's up for free beers too as well. So look him up if you guys see him out there. So that's going to do it for this week. On the recharge, I do want to say, if you're watching this, leave your comment. We want to have a new segment next week where we can answer one of our comments on air and let it pertain to something in the future. So we'll be talking about the next game next week. So if you have a comment, send it with us, and we'll try to answer it here as part of a new part of our segment that we have here on the Recharge. So For Matthew Stanley, I'm Ruben Gonzalez. Thanks for getting your recharge with us. We'll see you guys next week.